Please welcome Penn Executive Vice President Craig Carnaroli.
Good afternoon, or I should say good morning. Great to see you all here today. And on behalf of President Amy Gutman and the entire Penn community, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this forum on diversity and procurement. Before we begin, I do want to offer my apologies for my late arrival, but I actually have a very good excuse. Earlier today, in fact, I see a few people that were there, the Brookings Institution has released a report on how to grow the Philadelphia economy by leveraging our strengths, and one of the key recommendations was to do that in a very inclusive way. And procurement is specifically mentioned as a way of institutions being able to grow the local economy. So I have a good reason. I wasn't just off at the gym or anything like that, which as you can tell, I don't get there enough. But today's program is designed to celebrate supplier diversity in our city, showcase the resources available to these businesses, and provide an excellent opportunity for the all-important ingredient to success in business, the art of networking. We have three goals that we want to accomplish today. The first is to raise awareness of Penn's goals and objectives around supplier inclusion and diversity. Second, to showcase the resources made available to Penn and its suppliers. And finally, and this is our most important goal, to inspire you to participate in the best practices of inclusion, both as a supplier and a buyer. Our program begins today with a forum, and this is the inaugural forum. You're all participants in the art. This is a new twist we're trying, so we're going to really welcome your feedback. But it's going to be followed by our traditional expo. Both are designed to shed light on the many talented entrepreneurs in our city that we are fortunate to count as partners. And I hope you indulge me just for a moment around the first goal, which is to articulate Penn's objectives around economic inclusion in purchasing. Penn's strategic vision for operating the university is outlined in the Penn Compact, which has three broad themes: innovation, impact, and inclusion. Simply put, we see ourselves as a neighbor in a larger neighborhood and a good citizen of this fine community. And we take seriously our commitment to support local and diverse businesses. And when it comes to purchasing or procurement, we see all three of these objectives working together as having a positive impact on innovative vendors that is derived from being inclusive. For example, there's the annual impact of $500 million in Penn's purchasing of goods, supplies, and services from Pennsylvania businesses, $385 million of which is spent here in Philadelphia, $137 million of which is spent right here in West Philadelphia. So if we peel the onion, we have impact at all three levels. We're proud of those numbers, but as we're often told, you can always do more. To that end, it's my pleasure to introduce a panel of inspiring business leaders, and they are going to come up on stage here as I introduce them. We've asked them to share their own stories as well as perspectives on supplier diversity, both good and constructive. I've encouraged them to not just do happy talk today, but also the role their businesses are having on the local community. So the panel includes first Beth Baird, who joined Bon Appetit Management Company here at Penn in 2013 as their marketing manager. And she leads, She leads strategic initiatives, branding, and overall communications, including engaging with chefs, students, community members, and national thought leaders on the various issues confronting the food industry. She's a food industry veteran with a passion for sustainability and supporting local farms and small businesses. So Beth, I'm going to warn you right now, there's that guy in the front row, Jeff Hornstein, who is going to ask you about the vertical farming initiative that he's working on with the controller's office. So I'm just warning you, I'm going to avoid his questions, okay? No. Jeff is a champion for this initiative. Our next panelist is a person well known to many of us and really, I think, a pioneer. I mean, she was doing it before the buzzwords were even in the vocabulary, and that at a very young age, I will add. That is Della Clark, the president of the Enterprise Center. Della has been a critical player in the West Philadelphia community for more than 20 years and has been responsible for building the capacity of many businesses and launching many a career. Della is near and dear to my heart because of her role in creating the Culinary Kitchen at 48th and Pine, and without her passion and drive and, we're going to make this happen, that would not have happened. But her accomplishments are too many to recount today, but a Google search will confirm what we already know. Before even thinking about economic inclusion, Della was already doing it. So welcome, Della. Our third panelist is very well known to us, given his prior career, but is shown it's never too late to pivot your career. There is life after baseball, and that's none other than Gary Maddox, the CEO and majority owner of A's Pomeranz. A leading business in office furniture, represents over 400 manufacturer products around the world, and creates a platform for research and innovation from these companies, which allows Pomeranz to pass along to its customers and help reinvent their company, which was established in Philadelphia in the 1880s. Yes, exactly. Our next panelist is Gabe Manuhando, a Penn alum we're quite proud of. He is the founder and CEO of Wash Cycle Laundry. This is what you call a social entrepreneur. His business is a laundry and dry cleaning business, making an impact environmentally by using a fleet of bicycles instead of cars and using ecologically safe supplies. But very interestingly, he employs his hiring and training staff that are ex-offenders re-entering the workforce. And so he sort of made that his commitment and passion, and we're quite proud of him. And Gabe has also a long career here in University City, despite his youthful appearance. The Director of Strategic Alliances at the Center for Sustainable Transportation in Mexico City, as well as the Executive Director of the Enterprise Center. So he, too, is a protege of Della Clark. So how many more are in the audience, just so I know, Della? Okay. And our final participant is someone I've known in my entire career at Penn, who's really just been a great partner with us. And that's none other than Todd Rose, the CEO of Telrose Corporation. Welcome, Todd. Telrose was founded in 1995, so now 22 years old, and has grown to be one of the city's most impressive companies supplying office equipment, printing services, and technology solutions. Todd is one of those folks you hear about. He was a Xerox alum, so you hear about the IBM alums, the Xerox alum, but he got the entrepreneur bug, and I think it served you well. Good. All right, so with that, we're going to move to the question period. And so I'm going to ask the panelists two questions, but we're also going to have time for questions from the audience. So how this is going to work is before the forum, you received cards. On these cards, you can write any questions. If it's for a particular panelist, please note that. And then you're going to see people patrolling that will take those cards, and this will allow us to just be sure we can get as many diverse topics as possible. So any other instructions on that? Okay, good. I'm seeing no. All right. So let me go over here. You know, when I was a freshman at Penn in 1981, just to reveal my age, this was the room that I had like my first classes. It's a very special room for me. So we're going to start out with none other than Della. Della, you've been an important player in this area for many years. You've seen supplier diversity as a core value to business grow or change over these years. What do you see as the keys to success for minority entrepreneurs trying to start or grow their businesses?
Well, first of all, Craig, before I answer that question, I want to say how delighted I am to sit on this panel, because to my right is one of our best stakeholders in the food business, Bon Appetit. And to my left here is three entrepreneurs that I have watched grow up. And so as a coach, it gives me great honor to be on these panels with them and to acknowledge their growth and to see them develop. And so, yes, I have been around for a while, to be able to see
She
this.
started when she was 5. Let's just be clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Gabe started when he was just 2. So, yeah. So, I think, Craig, if you'd asked me that question 25 years ago, my response probably would be different than today. And after 25 years of coaching businesses, I now understand the number one disruptor in starting, scaling, and sustaining is capital. Okay? And unless you have the right infusion of capital when you start that business, you never get to scale. And if you don't have the right type of capital when you get to scale to get to sustain, you don't grow and develop. And so one of the reasons that a lot of small businesses never get to the millions and billions is because they don't have the right form of capital in the beginning. And so after 25 years, the Enterprise Center is shifting its focus and its mission primarily to capital. And we're focusing on bringing different forms of capital, not only lending, patient, equity, and all other forms of capital to help these businesses grow, start, and succeed.
And are you seeing that type of capital source you want out there in the market?
It's out there, but it's difficult to get. Yeah. And so if you mirror our work at the Enterprise Center, it reflects who our customers are and the difficulty they have. But it's our job as a connector, the expediency to relationships and to procurement opportunities to make sure that our clients that we're trying to help have that capital. And so I'm known to go around the city of Philadelphia and threaten to shatter kneecaps. So, Greg, that's my secret to getting that capital.
There's no media present, Della, so I think you're safe, you know. So let's shift to Todd. Todd, Telrose is really one of our flagship models of majority-minority partnership that has helped establish your company as a tier 1 supplier here at Penn. In fact, you, Mark Mills, Office Depot's Director of Supplier Diversity, conducted a webinar on supplier diversity for the National Association of Education Procurement. Just as you did in the webinar, how can you describe how this model and your relationship with Penn began and how you proceeded to grow?
Sure. Thank you, Craig. First, I'd like to say I'm privileged to be on this esteemed panel here with our Office Depot partnership and with our trusted customer and partner, the University of Penn, for the past 22 years. So it's kind of simple for me. It's what we call it is a success triangle. And what the success triangle, it has 3 prongs. The first prong is a willing customer. And that willing customer has been the University of Penn. We actually we signed the first order in Xerox's program 22 years ago nationally with the University of Penn. So they were out in front. That willing customer has to have top-down leadership with diversity being part of a business goal, but not just something that feels good. Because that feel good will go away at some time. So what you have to do is have them embrace that. Then you have to have a committed partner. And a committed partner is a company like Office Depot who provides resources, provides training, provides all those things to you so you can then go and execute. And the last part of it is having a capable, skilled diversity partner, which is what we are. And believe me, Craig said they want to talk about some of the good, not so good. University of Penn is a very challenging customer. I want you all to understand that. They're not going to keep you around for 20 minutes if you don't know what you're doing. But we've been around for 22 years, so you have to be skilled. And at the core of all these relationships, you have to have a common thread. And the common thread is understanding what is required, setting realistic expectations all across the board. And then as the diversity partner, what we have to do, we have to prove ourselves day in and day out and be successful at whatever we do across the board. Build a relationship beyond the transaction, because at some point the transactions will get lean, but your relationship will continue to, and then the university and the other partnerships will continue to find things for you to continue to grow, prosper, and be sustained.
So Todd, speaking of that, I mean, is there an experience or a memory you have of a bump in the road where you had to sort of pivot in our relationship in some way to respond that really helped your company? Like, it was a real learning moment, maybe even for both of us.
Yeah, so that learning moment came in 2003. We were a Xerox partner, a Xerox dealer. My former boss, Tony Moore, is in the, it was a pivotal moment in my personal career. University of Penn went out to bid, and they did what is called a reverse auction. I don't know how many of you are familiar with a reverse auction. So I was a Xerox guy. We lost. 99.9% of my business was with Xerox. So I was faced with a situation: do I fold it up, or do I continue in building my relationships with the University of Penn? They offered me to partner with the company that won. I declined because I had other business, small interests with them, that 0.1%. And ultimately what happened was Penn came back to me, and they brought Office Depot to me. And then we've been thriving ever since, doing about $5 million a year in business since 2003. So that was a watershed moment for me. And you have to trust, as an entrepreneur, you have to trust yourself. And you have to have a set of principles and integrity. And I think Penn realized, man, this young man said no to the University of Penn and this other situation, but I know what I'm about, and I know what we can do. And they had trusted my abilities over the years and continue to do so. And we look forward to moving forward with them into the near future.
Great. Thank you, Todd. Gary, I really want to talk to you about the Phillies, but I know this isn't the right place. They just had a relief pitcher. I think things would be much better. But so seriously, Pomerantz has conducted business with really wide, diverse organizations over many years. And so to what degrees have these initiatives around supplier diversity, programs and efforts played a role in your business development?
Well, supplier diversity has played a huge role in my business career. I first got interested and even knew that there was a business to go after. I hung around when I was playing with Joe Morgan, Hall of Fame baseball player. He was into, whenever we'd go into a town, he'd locate some business there or some opportunity that he would pursue. And so I learned that those opportunities were out there before I finished playing. But in baseball, for me, literally, the handwriting was on the wall. Every day I would go into the clubhouse, they'd have the lineups on the board, and without even looking, I knew where I was going to be playing and where I was going to be in the lineup. And then when I went in there and I didn't know that answer, I had to start making plans. So the handwriting was on the wall. And at that time, 80% of baseball players came out of high school, so I had no college to fall back on. And I started taking classes while I was still playing, and Temple accepted me as a full-time student while I was playing. So I was trying to learn and get ahead because I knew time would be catching up on me. But, and so as I got out there in the business world, first deciding to retire in Philadelphia when I am from Los Angeles was a big decision. But it turned out to be the most important decision in terms of my business career that I could have made. People thinking that I would live in this area, and I could have probably played a couple of more years, but retired here in Philadelphia. I got tremendous support from everyone around. Craig was, the university was quite helpful. And so I got an opportunity to purchase my company, Pomerantz, about 21 years ago. And I can say here today that I would not have gotten that opportunity if it were not for the University of Penn. Because at that time, just like they were throughout the country, responsible corporations were trying to get diversity in their cities. And Penn, as the largest employer in the state at that time, was one of those organizations. And so the manufacturer that I work with, Steelcase, Penn, told them, hey, if you want to try and do business here, you're going to have some diversity in your organization as well. And so based on that, I started pursuing that opportunity. The doors opened up for me, and I was able to get that opportunity 20 years ago. So I can say that I would not have had that opportunity if it were not for Penn. That said, the first 10 years, I did no business here, which was difficult, to say the least. No, but but you really have to learn, right, where the opportunities are, and you have to come up with your own strategy. and you cannot just stay and depend on one thing. Diversity opened the door, got me in the game, and it was up to me to put together my team. And I know a little bit about teams. I recognized what my strengths were, my weaknesses, surrounded myself with good people, and then I could try and do anything I wanted to and try and take my business in any direction. And so that's really, that's what has been the key, is tapping into the relationships, resources. As I said, I didn't do any business here at Penn for 10 years. Glenn Bryan will tell you that. But I then went to Chicago, and my biggest customer there is the University of Chicago. Well, I got that introduction from Craig Carnaroli. And I told Craig this last year, you know, I'm doing business at the University of Chicago, but I can't do any at the University of Penn. And so the person that he introduced me at the University of Chicago gave me an opportunity. I then went to Northwestern, where that person went. And so you start to build that network and look for those opportunities. And you have ideas and you think about it, but you have to have a company, number one, that's profitable. You have to maintain profitability at all time, and then you have to be agile enough to go where the opportunities are.
Thank you. Gabe, you recently co-authored a white paper with Penn that dealt with small businesses doing business with large anchor institutions, which just won the 2017 Supplier Engagement Award. Can you address some of the practices and pitfalls that you outlined in your paper?
Sure. So I think we talked a lot about how there's a lot of interest nationally in how anchor institutions can engage with local businesses to create sort of local economic development. And we've had an opportunity to interact with about a dozen anchor initiatives across the country, just through our own operations and conferences and whatever. And I think what's really unique about Penn is sort of action-oriented nature. So there's things I like to call table stakes. So if you're a local business looking to engage with a large institution, there's certain things that are just par for the course. So biggest one, which is a shock to a lot of businesses, it's sort of like human years and dog years. The university is the human and the entrepreneur is the dog. A year in Penn time is 7 years in small business time, and that's just something you sort of have to recognize. I spoke with somebody in the facilities division a few years ago, and they said, well, the thing you have to realize is that Penn has been here since 1740 something. We can do a deal with the devil, and in 100 years the devil will be dead and Penn will still be here. So there's like that's just Penn's not going to change. You are, right. So if you're going to be a small business interacting with Penn, you have to learn to understand the decision time frame. I'd say the other big table stakes things, which is really come into focus, is that your entire company and all of your stakeholders have to be on board with that. So there's a lot of cultural changes that you have to make. And it's one thing for you and your management team to say, we want to do this. It's another thing for you and your management and your capital structure and your board and your investors and your bank and your lenders to say, like, no, we're really all ready to push together to capitalize you, to take advantage of this. But you've got to get your employees on board and you've got to get your vendors on board. And if any one of those like key supports isn't there, then it's going to be really rough going. We found that we actually don't do business with a single vendor that we did business with in 2015 at this point, and that's been a huge turnaround for us. So you really have to get table stakes. You've got to get every single one of the stakeholders in your company up to the challenge. I think on the university side, there's really got to be a commitment to finding actionable opportunities. So, a lot of institutions have events like this, where you're trying to find, we buy a lot and, there's a lot of businesses in the community, so how can we figure out how to push this together? But until you actually start talking about here's a specific purchasing agent, or a business manager who needs to purchase this commodity, and here's a specific business that can provide that, until you really get to that granular matchmaking, then it's all just talk. And I think that that's really where Penn has been a good, advocate of ours. So I mean, we had our first purchase order here in 2012, and it was pretty small, but over time, they've gotten to know our capabilities, and we've gotten to know their needs, and so the involvement that we have across the university and all the various different schools and departments has been able to grow.
Great, great. I want to give you your first networking tip of the day. So all of the people connected with Mark Mills' shop, the pen procurement people, please stand for a second. So, and the networking thing, these are the people, to Gabe's point, that you want to focus like a laser on, okay, all right? Yes, exactly. Good. All right, so let's turn to Beth. So Della alluded to this in her comments, but I think it would be helpful for the group to know, just describe some of the work you've done and what we call next tier economic inclusion.
Sure. Thanks, Craig. Bon Appetit's extremely excited to be a part of this forum up here. And for those of you that may not be familiar with Bon Appetit, we're an on-site restaurant company that serves corporations, universities, museums, specialty venues. We operate over 650 cafes in 33 states. And one of the hallmarks of a Bon Appetit account is that they are hyper-focused on purchasing locally. They're interested in responsible sourcing practices. And we've developed wide-reaching policies that reinforce that, namely our Farm to Fork program, which was debuted in 1999. And what this does is it requires our chefs to purchase 20% of their ingredients from local farms, local fishermen, local ranchers, and local producers. So 20% of every dollar that we spend is going back into that local community. Second, and to delve a little bit deeper, we introduced something called the Locally Crafted program in 2014. And the Locally Crafted program was to really give a leg up to local entrepreneurs that were seeking opportunities around Bon Appetit's locations. And so we thought a lot about what we were going to put into that program. And not only did they need to conform to what we already had in place with Farm to Fork, but we really wanted to delve deeper. And so to do that, we made sure that the business, as Craig mentioned, was a majority minority-owned or women-owned business. So that was justice through ownership. And second, there was justice through training. So as a founding principle, business needed to seek and provide job opportunities to those that were part of a disadvantaged population. So two of the success stories that Bon Appetit's been particularly involved in, and it's absolutely been through Penn, and it's because there's such a great synergy between the two institutions. And that has been the Enterprise Center, which Della mentioned earlier, which has been phenomenal, and that's also been the Common Market. So the Common Market is an aggregate that allows local farms, local fishermen that may not have access to wide distribution networks to really find their network and find their place. So we work with 80 different local farmers, local fishermen, local ranchers, local producers to give them opportunities here at Penn. The Enterprise Center is a success story at a totally different level. Since 2009, when Bon Appetit came back up here, they got in touch and worked with Della and have provided opportunities to over 30 different entrepreneurs that have come out of the Enterprise Center, giving them access to not only the Penn community, but the greater Philadelphia community as a whole. We have done nearly $500,000 in just 6 months or so with all of our different networks, all of our different entrepreneurs, and really that's providing that next tier economic opportunity that both of these institutions are looking for.
Good, thank you. Okay, now we're going to move to round two, and are we getting the other questions rounded up? Good. All right, so let's start with Della. So Della, despite all the success with the MBDA and the Enterprise Center, Philadelphia still has its challenges. In fact, you were referenced in an article in the Philadelphia Business Journal which cited a State of the City report from Pew Charitable Trust. The report shows that approximately 80% of the city's businesses are white-owned, despite the fact that only 1/3 of Philadelphia's population is white. What do you think? Why do you think we see such a disparity, and what can all of this in this room do to close the gap?
Well, if I may be candid, typically when there is a discussion in our region, in our city, and in many cases in some of our communities where we're discussing regional strategies about economic development, about small business growth, small businesses or minorities are not at the table. And what I have learned is that if you're not at the table, you'll never make the menu. And so I think that, Craig, we need to work together with the University of Pennsylvania to make sure that when these high-level discussions are taking place about how we grow our region, how do we connect small businesses to that regional growth, that we have the right representation at the table. And this is no disrespect to a lot of people, but a lot of people don't understand how you grow a business that is at the table. And this is grit work. It's really difficult to grow our economy and grow people sitting in this room who want to succeed. And so I often tell entrepreneurs, I don't have a business. So if I sit at the table, I'm representing all of you. I'm not representing my business. But if you have one of these guys at the table, they're representing their business, and no disrespect to them. And so I care about every minority and diverse business sitting in this room, okay? And 3 things that you should know that's going to help the Enterprise Center help you. 1, we don't mind vetting you. But when we ask you for your financials, because we have a fiduciary responsibility to Penn, that we need to vet you in an appropriate way. So if I call up Mark Mills and I can say, Mark, I got a client I want you to meet, Mark will have a high level of assurance they've been vetted. So you need to give us the right information to vet you. Number 2, you need to be transparent about where you really are in your capacity and in your capital and those things, because all contracts require some level of mobilization. And if you don't have that money for that mobilization, you need to be candid with us about that. And then finally, the 3rd thing is that, you've got to have a growth strategy. It's no longer about having a little bitty business or a fashionable business or a business just for you and your family. Really, what Penn and what the Enterprise Center is interested in is job creation, right? We want everyone in West Philadelphia to be employed. And how do we do that? Is by creating job creators. And that's what you represent in this room. So when you come to us with a combined strategy around that, how can Penn say no, and how can the Enterprise Center say no?
Della, this past fall, I met a young woman you're employing who's actually working on the 52nd Street corridor and trying to work with some of the local businesses. You want to just talk a little bit about that, to your point of the coaching, the mentoring, and how people see to grow their businesses?
Right. For 22 years, I turned my back on 52nd Street. Everybody would come to me and say, you have great leadership at the Enterprise, and you got resources. Why don't you do something with 52nd Street? It was a great commercial corridor back in its day. And then it has hit rock bottom. And so finally, about 3-4 years ago, the Enterprise Center decided to take on 52nd Street. We've applied to DCED for a Main Street designation. Kresge Foundation just awarded us $900,000. There is a major institution on 52nd Street called Bush Fire Theater. Okay, it needs a tremendous amount of work. I need some of you entrepreneurs to join in on this so we can restore that major institution and bring it back to life, right? So we're doing a number of things. We want to connect the retail, connect the boarded up building, and make 52nd Street back to where it was. So we're providing all kinds of TA and bringing capital to 52nd Street, as well as the Enterprise Center is looking to do some of its own acquisition.
Good. You shouldn't really signal that, because now people are going to go speculate and buy it, so you pay more. Okay.
Well,
That's what I've learned over the years here at Penn.
Well, they heard I shot a kneecap, so.
Okay. So Todd, as the CEO, I'm just curious what you're struggling with most these days. I mean, we hear the economy's at full employment, and so that's sort of debatable depending on what you want to count. But is it labor recruitment? Is it price sensitivity, the absence of inflation? So people just expect you to just work down the price? Like, what are some of the challenges you face as you're trying to grow your business, whether it be in university clients or more broadly?
Craig, I think the biggest challenge that we have, one, is always capitalization, like Della said. But to Gabe's point, what we call them is called ROs. And ROs are real opportunities. Not some pie in the sky, not some things that you think would be good, but some real purchase orders, some real opportunities that create commerce and create revenue. Because when you create commerce and create revenue, then you can create jobs. You really have to understand that coming from a large institution. So what we try to do is, in our business, is we try to map our business goals, our product and services to your business goals, like sustainability, like diversity. We have a sustainable tote program that we use. Diversity, obviously, we're a diverse company. Local community. Over the years, we've hired 33 people from the West Philadelphia community alone. Much like Gabe, we take people who have not had opportunities or get closed out of certain employment opportunities, and we give them the opportunity. We coach them up. we ask the university and other clients, we're not asking you to lower your standards. What we're asking you to do is right-size your, and reduce your obstacles. If my competition's hurdles are 4 feet tall, if mine are 4 feet tall and my competition's are 4 inches, you got to do one of two things. Bring theirs up to 4 feet or lower mine to 4 inches. Because I've been successful with that disparity. And that's kind of what we ask for, those real opportunities. And from a pricing standpoint, you have to look at the culture of the company, have to look at the culture of the partnership, and then you really have to understand, how do we make this? Where's the common thread in this? How can we all be successful? And that's kind of what we do, and we're going to outwork everybody, and what we try to do at Telrose Corporation is what we call is deliver that wow experience to our customers. Like, wow, that's different. Wow, they do everything they say they're going to do when they're supposed to do it, not when they feel like it, not when they want to, but each and every time. And over the 22 years, that's what we have done for the University of Penn, and that's why you keep coming to me and trusting us to do what we do in this marketplace.
So Gary, one of the things you hear out there in the marketplace is how organizations want more kind of flexible open space, how the square footage per employee is sort of declining, is more kind of work at home. What are these sort of dynamics doing your business? Are you adapting the product line, or how are you dealing with this sort of evolving environment in terms of sort of furniture needs?
Well, yeah, you have to stay on top of what the innovation is. We have manufacturers that spend a lot of money on R&D, and then you have to be aware of what that is and how it's impacting and the trends. And so for us, we basically, as our company, we just want to know what the rules are, and we will, we feel be successful. And you tell us the rules, we'll work hard, and we'll think about it, we'll try and be creative and come up with an opportunity. We're not looking for diversity. If it turns out that there's a diverse opportunity along the way, that's great, but we have to go out and compete. When I first bought the company, furniture distributors like myself stayed in this region. And so, but if you see what major corporations are doing, they first went national, we had to become national, and now they're all focusing on emerging markets overseas. And so we're trying to figure out how we get overseas. We just had our first opportunity in Seoul, South Korea. So you have to know what's going on out there and try and use that knowledge to stay a step ahead and not depend. I mean, diversity can be a trap as well. When you go in and you talk to somebody, an executive vice president that may want to have diversity, but a person in procurement may not. And so in a business that's like mine, that's complex, the diversity officer cannot help. They can get the runaround forever. And so you end up chasing something that you have no chance at succeeding at. So you have to put that aside and go and be creative on your own and come up with which path you're going to take. You're going to have to be good anyway, so use your own thoughts.
I mean, one of the things I learned from you in our conversations, and sort of build on what Todd was saying, which is that Gary was saying that sometimes when we're at the point of procurement, it's almost too late. In other words, if you haven't figured out where the decision on the type and the setup and the like. So talk a little bit about that, just understanding the process of purchasing within an organization.
Well, yeah. So for me, you can give me the bid, and I can do my job with the bid and get my people to answer it properly. But really, the key was who specified the bid. Who designed what was in it? Well, they have a leg up, and that's an advantage. So you have to know what all those things are. You have to sound the horn and go and ask. I said to Craig, I just need to get in earlier to understand what the specifications are and let me provide the specifications as well and give us an equal opportunity that way. But, those are some of the things that you come across that are, like I said, little pitfalls that you have to get your arms around and move through.
Thank you. Gabe, talk a little bit how you've taken advantage of community business resources to help develop your business.
Sure. So it takes a lot of different types of support to grow a business, and there's a lot of resources out there. So I grew up in the Enterprise Center since I was 2, I guess. still walk with a little bit of a limp from having my knees capped, but no, I think there's a number of technical assistance resources here. I think one of the great new sort of arrivals is 10,000 small businesses. We went through that, and it's a really great, very, very intensive and very, very structured program. So I highly recommend that to everybody. I think the other big generic piece of advice I would give is that, particularly on the capital side, for better or worse, and I don't think you'd disagree with me, Della, but Philadelphia is actually not really a great place to raise capital. I think it can and should get a lot better. But if your search for capital is limited to the city of Philadelphia, then that's probably a problem. Just about all of the capitalization that we've raised has been from outside of this region. And I think that's to the detriment of the business community here, but I think if you're interested in growing and scaling a business, you should be looking elsewhere. And I think the best entry points to that are a number of incubator programs. So our sort of first intro into this was called Good Company Ventures. There's a number of other accelerator programs, whether depending on your industry. So there's one called Dream It for healthcare, and there's one for media, and so on and so forth. So I would really try. I mean, it's a great, if you don't sort of have those connections already, a great point of entry is accelerator programs. The last thing I would say is that really the best way for you to understand all of the strengths and weaknesses of your business are your customers, and we've been really fortunate to have customers who have just been incredibly collaborative in helping us achieve the standards that they need. The Init Pen has been in some respects very, very demanding, and in other respects, the best kind of demanding. In that we've always felt that we've had a collaborative approach from them, so that we can meet their bar.
Right. So Beth, what lessons learned can you offer buyers and sellers as a result of your success with Bon Appetit?
I think here at Bon Appetit, one thing that we really kind of strive to drive home is that there's flexibility and then there's feedback. And so what we're always looking, especially with some of our partners over at the Enterprise Center, is we're needing them to be flexible. We're needing them to be nimble. We're giving them access a lot of times to locations that are going to be doing $6 million annually in revenue. And we need them to both be open to the feedback that we're providing as well as the guidance. And we need them to, be willing to kind of work with us a little bit. Feedback, we're always looking for it. We always want to be providing those opportunities here, especially in West Philadelphia. And we're looking for our consumers to be giving that to us on a daily basis, whether that's Penn, whether that's our end user, whether that's a first-year Penn student, whether that's a doctor from over at the hospital. Whoever it is, we're looking to gather that, we're looking to pass it along, and we're looking to provide opportunities to help these young entrepreneurs grow their business.
Great. So we now have 3 questions from the audience, so you're getting closer to being outside. So the first one is an interesting one. I'm going to open to the whole panel, but don't all 5 feel the need to answer it, or we're never going to get out of here. Okay, all right? So what role does the Philadelphia Chamber play in the effort to empower minority-owned businesses? Do you feel there has been any real effort to do this?
I'm taking the field.
Okay.
Okay. I'll take a shot at it.
Okay.
You say the Chamber?
Yes.
I've been on the board of the Chamber for 25 years. I'm on the executive committee of the Chamber today. And it was really the key for me in terms of getting to meet people reaching out to me, and it was an opportunity to see leaders, and that's really where I learned how leaders that give their time run their businesses. I didn't know anything about business, but I got a chance to see how people with major corporations run their businesses. So it's a learning experience for me that way. And it's always a networking opportunity where you're going to meet somebody like Craig that's going to take you to the next opportunity.
I was part of the CEO Access Program with the Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce a number of years ago, and what they did was they paired minority CEOs with majority CEOs. So there were people like David Cohen, Mike Carbone from TD Bank, David Cohen's from Comcast. And what we did was we would sit down and we had access to them. And we talk about our business, we talk about our strategies, and they would open up their network to us. So from that standpoint, it was the chamber was very beneficial in me developing some relationships with other large corporations around the city.
Sure.
And I known Della for a long time. In fact, my kids were at the Enterprise Center to learn about business because I couldn't teach them very much. But, you know, it's all about, and Della is doing that because she's giving back. She's helping people to do that. That's a big part of being an entrepreneur. And it's a big part of how you network. I mean, if you can get on a board of a nonprofit, give your time, help them fundraise, opportunities are going to flow from that. And giving back is a good thing to do.
Next question. How much time and, on average, expense is required to maintain certification status?
There's different certifications. So, we're certified through the National Minority Supplier Development Council, which is a private sector certification. I'd say it's probably, in my opinion, the best mix between, widely recognized and not too onerous. The first time you go through the certification process is quite, time-consuming, but the renewals are not. So it's sort of once they're in, it's a little bit easier to maintain your status. And I think it's about $1,000 to start and $500 to renew every year. There are other programs, like there's the Federal 8A program, which is very, very onerous, but not necessarily a requirement unless you are specifically going after government business.
Good. And then finally, what activities do you execute daily, monthly, yearly to develop partnerships as subs or primes?
How much time you spend?
Well, what activities do you do do you execute daily, monthly, year to develop partnerships as subs or primes? Like how much of your day is really spent in business development versus operations? Oh, we got more questions. All right.
Well, for me, business development is a 24/7, job. The operation piece, because I have a very capable staff, they allow me to go and do the business development, and then I also have salespeople that do that. But so as an entrepreneur, you eat, sleep, and drink who you are, what you are, and your brand. Your brand says everything about you. And so to the degree that you can make sure that people understand what are the components of your brand, then you should do that. But as an entrepreneur, I can speak for myself, is every single solitary day. Sometimes I wake up, I have a little notebook, I decide, by my bed, I wake up and I write things down. Who do I need to talk to? What do I need to do? And those kind of things. So it's an ongoing, it's really, it boils down to a labor of love. This group of folks sitting up here, you can't be tentative and do this. You can't have thin skin and do this. You have to be prepared for the challenge of business every single solitary day. And the last thing I would like to say, and it's not to this question, but all the businesses, non-diverse businesses, diverse businesses in this audience, especially the diverse businesses, we ask institutions like the University of Penn and large box organizations to do business with us. How many of us do business with one another? That's what I'd like to see. We need to have that, change our mindset on that. And then, because when we have this anchor institution doing what they're doing with us, all of the business that we do collectively together, then we can elevate ourselves and people and our community. So that's my PSA for that.
I want to make one comment more. I want to follow up what Todd said, because not only doing business with each other, but also collaborating and less competition with each other, okay? Because none of you have the capacity to do it all by yourself. So come together and collaborate as well to bid on proposals and projects and opportunities.
Well, I have two more questions, but I feel we've ended on a really positive note. So how about a round for our panel? Thank you. And Dr. Gutman wishes she could be with us today, but in lieu of that, she actually has gifts for each of you. So Tony's going to come over here. We're actually going to
Are they
Great.
purchase
Yep.
orders?
Well said. Okay, all right, okay, sure.
I love it.
Okay, great. So thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks very much.
Okay, Della,
Thank you.
good to see you.
Thank you.
Gary, oh, there you go, thank you. Okay. Go around here. Dave, okay, yep, thank you. Thank you. Yep, very great. Okay. Oh, people in the video. That's last, Michelle? Okay. Glenn? Okay.
And I don't think Winfred was here from Netta.
Okay, well, okay, sounds good, all right. Okay. Nice to see you, thanks for being here. Okay. Thanks, Glenn. Good to see you. There you go. All right, so we're going to wrap up here. I threw a curveball to the people organized. I didn't see that last two questions not coming. So but Todd ended us on such a positive note. So we also, though, I want to thank just a couple of people. One, we have our event sponsors, which have each exhibited a dedication to economic inclusion in their own companies and with us here at Penn, and that includes Fisher Scientific, Bon Appetit, Allied Universal, Bank of America, Coca-Cola, Office Depot, and the Inn at Penn. So how about a round of applause for our sponsors? And I'd also like to acknowledge representatives that we have here from organizations that work to support economic inclusion and are great partners of Penn, including the African American Chamber of Commerce of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware, the Asian American Chamber of Commerce of Greater Philadelphia, the Greater Philadelphia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Minority Business Enterprise Council, the City of Philadelphia Office of Economic Opportunity, the Dorrance H. Hamilton Center for Culinary Enterprises, the Enterprise Center and Minority Business Development Agency, Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce, and the Minority Supplier Development Council. How about a round of applause for those organizations? And I left two off, the University City District and the Wharton Small Business Development Center. So thank you as well. So we also, this took a lot to pull together, and I do want to acknowledge the great work of Mark Mills and Tony Sorrentino, Glenn Bryan, Joanne Mitchell, the folks that really pulled us together. I know I've just omitted someone, so I'll apologize in advance, but thank you all for your, and Vera, for your great effort in pulling this all together. So how about a round of applause for them? So you are now invited to join us for the Diversity Supplier Expo. That is actually right outside this building on the beautiful College Green. There's a tent, so it's a little warm out there. But the expo is really designed to really capture what Todd said. It's really a showcase, but also network and find opportunities to work together. And so that concludes this part of the day, and we look forward to seeing you outside. Thank you all very much.